Thanks for joining us here on News West 9. I am pleased to now be joined by State Representative Brooks Landgraf, District 81, Republican from Odessa. I feel like I've talked to you enough times. I know your title by now. Well, thanks for coming into the studio today, Brooks. We're talking about a very important topic that I've done a number of stories on. I know that you've been involved in. Have a years-long battle here with the high-level nuclear waste that's been trying to come into Andrews, and we know that that battle is coming now to the Supreme Court. I guess, can you kind of speak on the Supreme Court deciding to hear this case and kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, sure. This Supreme Court case is just the latest in a long line of battlefronts for the federal government to try to dispose of its high-level radioactive waste, not only in the state of Texas, but right here in the Permian Basin in Andrews County. Since 2021, I've been involved in a fight along with some of the local elected leaders in Andrews County to stop the federal government, the Biden administration, from using Andrews County as its dumping ground for high-level radioactive waste. We passed a law that dates back to 2021 that I carried in the legislature that was signed into effect by Governor Abbott that simply states that no high-level radioactive waste can be imported into the state of Texas and dumped for storage here.
Right, absolutely. And I guess what is expected, or was it expected from your perspective for the Supreme Court to take the case? Because obviously you don't represent Andrews County anymore, but you did whenever it first started, and I know you still have a lot of investment in that. And having followed how this has progressed, did you expect it to be taken up by the Supreme Court ultimately?
You know, I knew that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission under the Biden administration would try to fight. In fact, after we passed the law that banned what they're trying to do back in 2021, within a matter of days, the NRC issued this permit that would direct the Biden administration's high-level radioactive waste to Andrews County. So there's been a disregard for state law for the entirety of this process, and so I'm not surprised that even after lower courts ruled in the favor of the state of Texas, after the Fifth Circuit on appeal continued to rule in our favor, that they would take it up to the Supreme Court, and so that's where the question is being presented now. But I'm not surprised, but we're also going to continue our fight here in Texas.
Right, absolutely. We know the state of Texas is fighting a couple, the NRC and also interim storage partners as well in this. How confident are you? I don't know how much you're involved, obviously, in this process now that it's gone to that high of a level, but how confident are you that the state of Texas is going to be able to win these cases at the Supreme Court?
Well, so the state of Texas has prevailed at the district court level. We've prevailed at the Fifth Circuit appellate court level. So I am confident that the arguments will continue to win the day. But from my perspective, what's at the heart of this matter is the sovereignty of the state of Texas. We as a state have spoken after consulting with the people who would be most impacted by this in Andrews County and said, this is not what we want. We don't want to be the Biden administration's dumping ground. We passed a law to that effect, and that's why I'm very passionate about this issue, even though Andrews County is no longer in my district. It was at the time, but I know how the people in Andrews County feel about this. I know how the people all over the state of Texas feel about this, and this is why we continue to fight the federal government, the Biden administration, on this issue.
Right, definitely. What are some of the biggest reasons why you believe that the state of Texas will be successful when the oral arguments start and when the Supreme Court ultimately makes their decision and stuff?
Well, as a sovereignty issue, I mean, if you really want to get down to the technical arguments of this, under the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution, any power that's not specifically delegated to the federal government in the Constitution is reserved by the states or by the people. And when the state of Texas, as a sovereign state, has passed a law saying that we are not going to be the dumping ground for high-level radioactive waste, since the Constitution doesn't grant that authority specifically to the federal government, I think the sovereignty of the state of Texas should be respected, and hopefully that's one argument that prevails at the Supreme Court.
Right, definitely. I spoke with Monica Perales, who's been representing the coalition and also Fasken Oil Ranch in this, and she mentioned that this is something that's up to the Congress, not the agencies, and so it seems like that's a big part of the sovereignty, right, and it's something that they simply just don't want. I guess when it comes to, the winning in the lower court at the Fifth Circuit, can you kind of speak on how the state of Texas was able to win at the lower court and why that might translate to the Supreme Court as well? Yeah,
I think the arguments that were presented by the state of Texas at the Fifth Circuit, along with the arguments that were presented at the district court level, demonstrate that Texas is a sovereign state. We have the authority to regulate the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Texas. High-level radioactive waste that's generated in other states, if we say that we don't want it, we shouldn't be forced to take it against our will. Now, the state of Texas does generate some radioactive waste. We have a few reactors that is currently stored on site. This wouldn't affect that. Research reactors wouldn't be affected. This is basically stopping high-level radioactive waste that's generated in other parts of the country being forced here. And I think the courts have been very responsive so far that, yeah, this is not something that should be forced on the people of Texas against their will.
Right, we're talking about transporting, we're talking about bringing it on rail, and like a lot of, I mean, you're going through several communities at that point. It's not just Andrews County, of course, they'll feel the brunt of it if it is deposited there, but this is going to be impacting really everybody across the state and country, depending on that rail route and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. That's why this is a statewide issue, even though Andrews County would be the designated repository for this high-level radioactive waste. It could take many routes throughout the state of Texas in order to get here to the basin.
Yeah, when we speak about high-level nuclear waste, for those who don't understand what high-level nuclear waste is, can you kind of speak on exactly what that entails?
Yeah, the most common example of high-level radioactive waste is spent fuel rods. So the rods that are used in nuclear reactors at power plants that are highly radioactive, that's probably one of the most common forms of high-level radioactive waste. So there's high-level and low-level. Low-level is currently stored in Andrews County. There have been no problems associated with that. So we want that activity to continue happening because there's a great and safe track record for that. High-level radioactive waste is, as the name implies, much higher in its radioactivity level, and that's why it raises a lot more concerns than the low-level waste. Right,
absolutely. And, I guess, how are you guys planning on continuing the fight? Are you guys going to be involved in any way? Like, obviously, the state of Texas is the one that's technically in that lawsuit, in that battle, but I guess how maybe you and how you guys are planning on maybe continuing to help the fight when it gets to that point. Those oral arguments are ultimately heard probably in January or February, it seems like, of next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, so obviously I'm supporting the state's effort to defend ourselves in court. We as a legislature have spoken when my House Bill 7 was passed in 2021, signed into law by Governor Abbott. We had overwhelming bipartisan support from all across the state of Texas. So the people of Texas have spoken through their elected representatives and senators. They've spoken through their governor on this issue. And so I just want to make sure that those voices continue to be heard in this process.
Right, and I guess, is this the last step towards kind of preventing this from happening, or depending on what the Supreme Court decides, what maybe does the future hold for this situation?
Yeah,
not
so
too far ahead of ourselves, but
right.
Just to kind of guess, for people maybe wondering when this might ultimately end or something,
Well, the best case scenario from my perspective is that the Supreme Court of the United States affirms the ruling of the Fifth Circuit, which affirms the ruling of the District Court, and says that this high-level radioactive waste can't be sent to Texas by the Biden administration against our will. I'm holding out hope that best case scenario is going to come to fruition. I think that the sovereignty of the state of Texas dictates that outcome, and so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Right. What is this kind of years-long battle as we kind of wrap up been like for you, from your perspective, and some of the people that you've worked with? And I know there's a bunch of people that have been involved in kind of this fight over the last couple of years. Yeah,
this was an issue that was important to the people of Andrews County when they were in my district in 2021. Andrews made it very clear. In fact, the Commissioner's Court, led by then County Judge Charlie Falcon, who is no longer with us, and maybe that's one reason why I'm so passionate about this too, is that we have a dearly departed county judge who made this a very important mission, and I want to make sure that that his leadership in Andrews County continues to be respected. But the people in Andrews County came to me as their representative and asked what we could do at the state level to pass a law like House Bill 7, and so I did that in response to them. I'm going to fight for my constituents, even if it's against these forces that are much more powerful than I am. And if there are consequences that go along with that, that's fine, but I'm going to fight for the people of West Texas. And at the end of the day, that's all this is fighting so that the voices of West Texans can be heard, even at the highest halls of power in Washington, D.C.
Right, absolutely. And last question, just if we haven't somehow conveyed this throughout, but how important is this battle for the Permian Basin and the state of Texas? And I feel like it really goes beyond that when it comes to what this industry, what this region does for the United States and really the world, if you wanted to speak on all of that.
Sure. Well, look, the Permian Basin is known for oil and gas production. We are in the heart of the energy sector, and we're very proud of that. We do a great job, have a great safety record, do it better and safer than anybody in the world. And that's what we're known for. We really want to continue to emphasize that. Introducing this high-level radioactive waste storage, again, against our will, doesn't necessarily jibe with what we're already doing. And so we just want to continue to be able to do what we do best, and that is produce energy for the rest of the world. And high-level radioactive waste storage, especially when the people of the Permian Basin, the people of Texas have spoken out against importing that from all other parts of the country. If we think that that is going to hurt what we do best, then we just don't want to mix those two.
Right, definitely. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't cover?
I can't think of it, Tyler. I think you got it.
That sounds good. I appreciate the time, Brooks,
Yeah,
as
you bet.
always. Thank you for what you do and everything that you've done in this fight, and everything that, obviously everyone that's been involved is continuing to do, and we wish you guys all the best as you guys continue.
Proud to do it.
Well, thanks for joining us here on NewsWest9.com and 9+. We'll see you later.